Archetype Nolly by Neural DSP. One of my personal favorites from all the archetypes in the Neural DSP lineup gets a great update. Let's go check it out together, my friend. I'm Jorge Lanza, now we break it down, baby. Alright, my friend, thank you so much for being here. Today we're checking out the ARCHETYPE NOLLY X, and it's the newest iteration of all this new effort of Neural DSP trying to make all their plugins available in the Quad Cortex. But as we've seen so far with all the other X iterations, they're taking advantage of the actual time they have, and they're making little improvements in all their plugins, and some of them are pretty noticeable. But today I don't really have an interest to check out the past. I just want to see what's going on in the future and see what's brand new in this plugin. Let's go check it out together, my friend. So here we are in my computer, and there we go. This is the Nolly X. And the first thing that we're going to do is change the size. And of course, now we have the maximum. I remember that's one of the things that they're changing is the size. Can we do it like this? Oh, even better. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to notice is that there's no more 12 o'clock here in this dials. They're actually putting the settings that they believe are flattering to the amplifier, I guess you could say. And I think that's a smart decision. Okay, my friend, if you're familiar with the Neural DSP lineup and you already know the user interface, just jump to this minute right here where we're going to start actually listening to some sounds, making some noise, if you will. But now you that stayed right here, let's go check out the user interface. Okay, so first and foremost, in the left-hand corner, we have the input section, we have gate, and now we have a transposition dial, which I think it's part of like the X package, let's call it. Now they all have the transposition and they all have this doubler too, which is pretty cool. Then we have our presets right here. And very importantly, we have the brand new Nolly presets and we have to check it out. I mean, I feel like I always jinx myself because every time I say that I want to check out some set of presets, I always forget. So stop right now and just drop a comment with some crossed fingers saying, I hope that you don't forget. I hope that you don't forget. And while you're there, remember to like, subscribe, and do those cool little things that we like to do on YouTube. And enjoy this little bossa nova, my friend. I hope your day keeps getting better and better and better. All right, let's go. Oh, that got a little dramatic. Okay, I hope I remember. And then we have that doubler like we said in the output section. Here in the top, we have pre-effects, the amp itself, cabinet, EQ, and post effects. And then jumping all the way right here at the bottom is where you would change your amplifiers in this section that we're right here. So let's start by going to the pre-effects and see what's new. Okay, we have a compressor and you can choose the character. Maybe we'll listen to it later. And then, of course, the new overdrive. I'm not sure that it's a new overdrive, but I know for a fact that he just got this little switch right here that makes it like the modern switch in the Rabia overdrive. And if you use Amplitube and you watch my videos, you know that I use the Pinnacle Deluxe by Wampler in Amplitube. And that would be pretty much like the same switch, the vintage and modern switch. See, that's pretty cool. So basically like a tube screamer with a modern switch. Now, he's got some pre-delay in case you really want to get ambienty and messy. And he has it before the overdrive too. And I like that this overdrive, of course, has a little bit more control with the EQ points that you can have. Okay, then in the amps themselves, first we start with this. I can't remember what amps were these. I want to say that one was like a Shiba, another one was like a 6150 and stuff like that. So let's go check it out. Okay, first we have this one, which is going to be our clean amp, then our crunchy amp, then one of our high gain amps. And this is the great point of the Nolly. And I remember this used to be like my favorite, not only because of the sound, but I felt like it was like the best value because you have 4 amps. And this, it's like a victory, right? If you know what the amps actually are, please let us know in the comments so we can all read it later. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to our next section in the cabs. And very important right here, now we have a brand new cab for every single amp. Let's check it out right here. Great, and not just cab, I guess we have new microphones too. I don't know, I get it twisted because I've reviewed so many of the Neural DSPs so far that so I don't remember which cabinet had which microphones. But this seems to be more than what they used to do originally in the archetypes because I feel like the Nolly was one of the very first archetypes. And okay, we have a 57, 421, 184, a 414, a 121, and a 160. I want to say that maybe the 160 is a brand new one. And then we have a brand new cabinet, a 2x12. 75, I want to say maybe 75 watt, and then a 2x12. Then let's check this other amp. In this one we have, oh, okay, we have an angle cabinet and a straight cabinet. And then in this guy, okay, one with vintage 30s and one with greenbacks. Pretty cool. And then this guy, I guess this is a closed cabinet and an open cabinet, both with greenbacks. Again, feel free to correct me in the comment section. No problem. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. And then we have the EQ and we have the original and the Nolly's mod. Okay, and now in the next section, we have classic delay and classic reverb. All right, my friend, now that we know the interface and that we took note some of the things that we want to check out, let's stop the talking, get to the rocking, and grab a guitar. Today we're going to be using my PRS SE Custom 2408 because you know I trust this guitar. All right, so let's just start from the left. Let's start with the first amp. Let's switch to the amp view, and this is going to be our clean amp. So let's go to our neck pickup and split coil position. Let's hear how it sounds. Yeah, so this would be like our hyper clean. And I feel like this works better with a humbucker sound. Let's hear it. Let's try turning the bright switch off. I feel like the second you have that bright switch on in this amp, it gets a little bit jumpy in the dynamics. It just makes it feel a little bit hard to play for me, at least. But I feel like if you have a dark guitar, maybe that's the right way to do it. Or maybe if you have totally different EQ settings here. Yeah, to me that sounds pretty good. Let's go to the next amp and hear how it sounds. Bridge pickup, humbucker position. This is a little bit angrier. The first thing that I would do is I would add a little bit of depth. And when I say a little, I mean all the depth. There's something about this plugin that when you put the depth all the way up in this amp, it just sounds really great. Of course, this is not like a super high gain. This would be sort of like an edge of breakup, I would say. But of course, I don't really bright switch. But with the bright switch on, and if we go to a humbucker position in our bridge, we take the opportunity to go check that brand new Overdrive. I think it will be a little bit better. Let's hear what we have so far here. Okay, without the Overdrive. Now with it. I feel like this is a great sounding Overdrive, but definitely this is a great decision. I feel like most times when you use this kind of like green Overdrive, of course, like a Tube Screamer or something like that, the sort of like the biggest thing that happens is that it takes the bottom end out and it takes the top end out, so it gets a little bit honky. And we've grown to love that kind of sound, but I feel like it just sort of like works a little bit better for like blues and that kind of genres where you use a little bit more mid-range, or like you want to have a little bit more of a focused sound. Granted, when you're mixing, you can still change certain things, but it's better if you chose your tone right.
Of course.
And by them adding that little modern switch, let's call it that, basically what they're adding is that they're giving you that top end back. So it doesn't sound so constrained and it doesn't sound hunky anymore. Of course, it's all relative because it's still a Tube Screamer and it has to sound hunky, right? And that's how we go from edge of breakup to actual breakup. Okay, let's hear just an A-B. Maybe I went a little bit too aggressive with this. Let's turn it back to where it was. I feel like it doesn't change the character too much. So that's a great addition to an already great sounding overdrive. Okay, let's go back to our amps and let's move on to the next amp. And now I think we're starting to get into high gain territory. This one I feel like it could use a little bit of EQ, so that's a perfect segue to go check the EQ. And let's go check what's different. We have the original and the Nolly's mod. The original, we have 16K, now we have 12, 8K, 8K, then 4K becomes 4.5K, now 2K becomes 1.5K, and that's probably my favorite frequency that they chose. 1.5K, my friend, put it on your notebook because that's a very magical frequency, especially in electric guitars. And then 1K became 800, again, great frequency. Then 500 became 400, perfect if you want to stay away from the vocal and you just get a little bit of weight on the 400. Then 250, it's still 250. Then 125 became 150, and then 65 became 75. Basically more guitar-oriented frequencies. I think that's pretty nice. Now let's hear it without it. I mean, I feel like it's adding gain without even touching the frequencies. So let's see what happens if I start doing what I would normally and naturally do, which is cutting my 82s. And I already said that 82 because that's the lowest E in a guitar. That's where it sits. So that's where I want to be. And now let's see what we can do with the mid-range. Wow, that just made such a big difference. Let's try to hear A and B. Perfect. Oh, wow. I didn't notice that I did this 150, but that's exactly what I need to do. I'm trying to give it this more guitar-oriented frequencies, right? Let's see if we can take a little bit of 250 out and give it a little bit of 400. I feel like when we took that 250 out, we lost sort of like the chaos. So let's just do less of that. Then maybe this 400, I'm overdoing it. Okay, so I'm starting to see that this EQ, you have to be a little bit judicious with how much you're putting into it. And that's a great sounding EQ. Let's hear this. Too bad that the levels are like so different that it's almost impossible to hear the differences. I feel like it's still lacking a little bit of this. Let's do 1 dB and 75 hertz just so that we can compensate that low cut that we're doing. A lot more focus. Let's see what happens if we do a little bit of a high cut, maybe like around 12, considering that we have 12 here. And then let's do, I don't know, half dB boost. I really wish this amp had the depth knob because I feel like that's exactly what this amp needs right now. I'm like super tempted to give it a little bit more bass, maybe like around 7. Maybe I could go even higher now that I actually have that low cut. Yeah, it's not getting out of control. It's pretty good. I mean, I feel like that sounds a lot better. Maybe let's try to put it all the way up. It wouldn't be me if I didn't push it all the way up. I feel like it sounds a lot more modern, right? Great sounding amp. And then last but not least, let's go check this sort of Kraken, Victory Kraken. Wow, this sounds so different. Like the mid-range is absolutely different. Like nothing to do with any of the other amps, which is absolutely perfect. Because then let's say, what if you're trying to do like overdubs, like I have a feeling that it's just gonna fit the mix perfectly. It has a very nice mid-range that it just like commands attention without being like obnoxious or like too ugly. And if it's just too much, let's try to see what we can do with this. But I don't know, why would you fight it instead of just use it for what it is? Okay, I'm glad that we're checking all that out. But now that we did all this, let's hear the compressor in the clean channel. I want to hear if it's really snappy. Okay, let's hear it in smooth. Now let's hear it in snappy mode. Feel like it is snappy. Let's hear an A and B quickly. Very accurate indeed when they say soft and snappy, right? I like that. Really like it. Let's push it all the way up. Ooh, the release is very slow, so you hear it coming back. Yeah, you can't be too aggressive. I guess you have to keep it like a mid. Let's see if maybe in smooth you can actually compress more. They both do the exact same thing with a 2-stage release. Which maybe like for cleans, yes, I would keep it in snappy, and maybe for solos, I would run it in smooth, and then in solos, you can actually compress a lot more. The fact that the release is so slow, it's basically going to translate in better sustain. So that sounds pretty good. I'm really happy with that compressor. Let's go back to our default mode, and then let's hear this delay in the pre section. Let's hear it right here with the distorted sound. Like pickup. Okay, first and foremost, let's change that freaking 8th note because it sounds horrible. I would say maybe a quarter note, dotted, whatever, that's fine. I wish I could read like how much mix I'm using. know. I feel like usually I don't really like to have the delay before the amp. I like to have it after. But I want to hear in the comment section where you like to put your delays, before the amp or after the amp. Let's check some presets, my friend. But now, let's really get metal with my Charvel. Mostly because I have this guitar and drop D. So let's go check out the presets now. In the Nolly folder. All-purpose metal rhythm, shall we? Very cool. And I think this is a great occasion to actually try this transposition knob. I've never really used it. Let's hear it right now. I don't know, it feels like it sounds a little bit weird. Let's get it back to what it was, and let's change the next preset. Let's check out the AT lead. That almost sounds like the guitar has all the tone all the way down. Which is exactly what I feel you would need if you were trying to make it sound like that. Okay, that sounds really nice. Let's hear the next preset. Born in Sverige. That sounds really killer. Let's hear the next one, British Bite. Let me try that same riff on my neck. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's go to the next preset. Class A Meltdown. I hear like a room here. Let's hear this. I think this is what it is. Pretty nice. Let's hear a little bit more of that room so you guys can notice it better. I think that was way too much. Let's go to the next preset and see what's happening there. This sounds with like a little bit of room. They sound pretty good. Pretty nice. Let's hear Punch and Jot It. I feel like in context, all these presets are good. But I feel like just by themselves, it doesn't really make too much sense. I feel like Nolly is a real producer guitar player, but he's a bass player. But enough of that, my friend. I feel like we heard enough. Let's go get a few conclusions. Okay, so there you have it, my friend. The Archetype Nolly X. I want to say that it's probably one of the most complete archetypes that I've tried. Granted, I still haven't tried the Petrucci. Maybe by the time there's a Petrucci X, that'd be fun. But for now, I feel like this is the archetype in my book that feels like the most complete and like you can do the most with. Maybe you don't have the cleanest of the clean and maybe you don't have the heaviest of the heaviest, but you have pretty much 99.9% of everything that you might need to do in a guitar. Of course, you have to tweak settings. As you can tell, for example, that clean amp, you have to be very careful with that bright switch. And if you don't want to be careful, just turn that thing off and then you still have plenty of brightness in that amp. And then, of course, there's that EQ. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do to get more brightness if you need it. But the bright knob might become really handy if you're like soloing, for example, because you can get all that breakup and all that cut through that you need. So overall, my friend, I feel like they did a pretty good job with this update. And the thing that I really wanted to spend more time with was the cabinets because I felt like there was a lot of difference. Like there was a lot happening. But of course, I got a little bit too carried away with their samples and of course, bringing the two guitars up and trying to trade the presets. We didn't do it, but hopefully there'll be a next episode. But for now, my friend, that's enough of me. I want to hear what you have to say in the comment section down below. And remember, what you're there, always like, subscribe, and if you can support me financially, hit that super thanks. I really appreciate you, my friend. And if you have some more time to spend with me, go watch this video right here. I'll be waiting for you right there. Thank you so much for being here.